Let me tell you a wild story. It's a true story, straight from the Australian family court. It starts how a lot of stories do, with a relationship, a pretty bad breakup, and then a reunion. But what happened next sparked a multi-million-dollar legal war and exposed a lie that had been kept secret for 12 long years. Okay, so here it is, the central mystery of this whole thing. For 12 years, they lived under the same roof. But were they a real couple who'd gotten back together? Or were they just glorified roommates, two parents coexisting for the kids? The answer to that one question would decide who got a piece of a huge family fortune. It all came down to what the law said they were to each other. At the center of this storm are two people, Miss Groll and Mr. Ackland. And the problem is, for those 12 years they lived together, they told the court two completely, wildly different stories about what was actually going on. You're about to hear how one person's happy ending was, apparently, another person's living nightmare. So on one side, you have Miss Groll's version of events. For her, this was a story of a second chance. The prodigal husband comes home, he begs her to take him back, and they start rebuilding their family. But then you hear Mr. Ackland's story, and it's the exact opposite. He says he was a hero father, forced to move back into a terrible situation just to protect his kids from a mother he actually called violent. According to Miss Groll, she was all in. She fell right back into the role of a devoted wife. She thought her family was finally whole again. She swore to the court she had absolutely no idea that for that entire 12-year period, her husband was secretly seeing another woman. Can you imagine finding that out for the first time in a courtroom? Mr. Ackland, though, he paints this picture of himself as a man under siege, a victim. He even testified that he was so scared of Miss Groll that he slept with a tape recorder next to his bed, just in case he needed evidence. He insisted his real life, his real love, was with this other woman, Miss F. He was just, putting up with it all for the children, like a prisoner in his own home. So you've got two stories that cannot both be true. The judge basically had to put on a detective hat. She had to comb through 12 years of his said, she said, looking for the truth, not in the big dramatic moments, but in the small, everyday details of how they lived their lives. Now, Miss Groll's evidence, it's fascinating because it's all about the little things that make up a shared life. For example, he stopped paying official child support. Instead, he just started leaving a few $100 in cash on the fridge every week for groceries and stuff. She went to the government welfare agency and told them they were back together, which meant she lost her benefits as a single mom, a huge deal financially. They had little family rituals like takeout nights and holidays. And then there's this last detail. She regularly cut his toenails for him.
And this is where a tiny detail becomes huge. The judge zeroed in on this, saying it was, quote, hard to imagine someone performing such a personal, intimate act for someone who's just a roommate you're supposedly terrified of. It just didn't add up.
But hold on, Mr. Ackland had some pretty strong evidence too. He proved he never ended his relationship with the other woman, Ms. F. He showed the court that whenever he had big business problems or legal issues, the person he turned to was Ms. F., never Ms. Groll. He was making the case that they were emotionally separate. And then he played what he thought was his ace in the hole, a single piece of paper from the government. And this looked like a total smoking gun. It was an official government record from an interview with Miss Groll herself. And in that file, the agent wrote that she said they were living separate lives, didn't share money, and had, and this is a direct quote, absolutely no commitment to each other. Wow, that one document seemed to prove his entire story and completely blow hers out of the water. So there you have it, a flat-out contradiction. On one side, you have an official government document with her own words seemingly on it. On the other, you have more than a decade of shared habits in family life. So which one is more powerful? A piece of paper or 12 years of actions? What do you think? Well, after listening to all of this, the judge was ready to give her decision. And let me tell you, she did not hold back. Woof, that's about as brutal as it gets in a courtroom. The judge started her analysis by basically saying she didn't believe a word Mr. Ackland said. She called him a most unconvincing witness whose story challenges the limits of credibility. In a case like this, the second a judge decides you're not credible, you're pretty much done for. The judge just found his whole story about being a noble, self-sacrificing father to be, in her exact word, farcical. It made no sense. I mean, think about it. If you truly believed your kid's mom was violent, would you leave them alone with her for 2 years? And then, after you move back in to protect them, would you spend all your free time with your other partner? The story just completely fell apart. So, with his story in shambles, the whole case really boiled down to this one legal term, a de facto relationship. In Australia, this isn't about love or marriage certificates. It's a legal status. It just means two people are living together as a couple on a genuine domestic basis. The court's job is to look at the total picture of their life together to decide if they fit that description. And what is that total picture? Well, the law gives the court a kind of checklist of things to consider. How long were they together? Did they share money? How did their friends and family see them? It's not about ticking every single box, but about weighing all these different parts of their life to see what the final image looks like. So what about that trump card, that government document? Well, the judge took a closer look and basically took it apart. She pointed out that it wasn't a direct transcript of what Ms. Groll said. It was just an agent's summary. And it even had basic facts wrong, like their separation dates. So in the end, the judge decided that this one flawed piece of paper couldn't possibly outweigh a mountain of evidence from 12 years of actually living life together. And so, the final call. The court officially declared that yes, in the eyes of the law, they were in a de facto relationship from 2005 to 2016. And that was everything for Ms. Groll. It meant the family court could now handle their case, which basically gave her the green light to fight for his share of his massive assets. Now, this is more than just some crazy story about a rich guy. It's actually packed with lessons that are super relevant to all of us. So why should you care about this billionaire's messy legal drama? Okay, here are 5 big takeaways. 1, the law doesn't really care how you feel about your relationship. It cares about the facts of how you live. 2, never, ever underestimate the power of small, everyday details. Who cuts the toenails can be more important than who says I love you. 3, your credibility is gold in court. Once a judge thinks you're lying, it's game over. 4, living a double life doesn't get you out of legal trouble. It can actually get you into double the trouble. And 5, and this is a big one, you don't need a marriage certificate to have serious legal obligations to another person. Which kind of leaves you with one last thought, right? This entire multi-million-dollar fight wasn't decided by big promises or dramatic arguments. It was decided by the quiet, boring, day-to-day stuff, the little habits and unspoken actions. It really makes you stop and think, what are the little details that truly define your relationships in your own life? Thanks for joining me for this one.